Hello and welcome to our study entitled Food for Thought. As we go through this study over the next few weeks and even months, we're going to be looking at characteristics of a child of God and what does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. So often we think of being a disciple of Jesus Christ with what the world calls adherence, attendance and compliance to a church. But discipleship in Jesus Christ is so much more. It's so much more. You see, we live in a world that is inherently selfish. In fact, if you look at that list that we looked at this past Sunday morning, where Paul gave what we call the fruit of the Spirit, but just before that, he talked about the nature of the flesh that we struggle with, that animal nature inside of us. And a part of that nature is selfish ambition. It's a part of that nature that needs to be put to death because I've been crucified with Christ and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Selfishness shows up at a very early age. Children don't care that mom and dad have not had any sleep for the last week. All they know is they're uncomfortable and they need to cry so they can get the attention that they need. And while that's just the very nature of people, as children of God, our heart needs to be turned differently. John is going to write in 1 John chapter 3, starting in verse 17, he says, "If anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him?" Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 24, "Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor." In Philippians 2, Paul writes, "They all seek their own interest, not those of Jesus Christ." As disciples of Jesus Christ, we're called to look beyond ourselves. This past Sunday, I talked about the Spirit of God. The fruit of the Spirit in us is really based in our He and Thee relationship. What can I do to glorify God, and what can I do to show His love for others? You know, in this world that we live in today, things have become more and more and more closed off. And while people are being taken care of with food and shelter, that's not the greatest need we have. Oh, I know Jesus Christ is our greatest need, but you also have a need for relationship. How many times have you ever gone to a church service and somebody said, "I didn't like the songs. I didn't like. And everything seems to be centered around us. At some point, we need to grow beyond the stage of a 2-year-old spiritually, and we need to start looking around and understanding that there are times in our life that we benefit one another. I know Christianity is so much more than attending a worship service. In fact, attending a worship service is a poor barometer for your relationship with Christ. But I also know this. So often inside of those worship services is when we have an opportunity to minister to each other. In these times of COVID, in these times of isolation, it's become even more important that the body of Christ figure out ways to reach out to one another beyond the assembly. Again, the assembly may be the poorest place to reach out. But if we're going to be disciples of Jesus Christ and not be self-centered, but Christ-centered and other-centered, yes, our life needs to be centered on showing love to others. If that's what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, then we need to figure out ways to reach out beyond. We need to start using our cell phones for more than just checking Facebook and checking the weather. We need to start sending messages to each other that say, "I want you to know I've been thinking about you today. I've been praying for you today." We need to be sending out messages that say, you just crossed my heart today. I hope everything's going well for you. If you need somebody, I'm here for you. Please let me know. I would love to help you. We need to pick up and call that person that we know is all alone and doesn't have anybody to speak to all day. We need to be creative And we need to start having the heart of Christ to reach out beyond our own comfort zone. When Jesus was at the well, he asked a woman for drink. But I think the most significant thing that happened is he talked to a woman that was all alone. As disciples of Jesus Christ, let's start looking beyond ourselves and start looking to how we can serve one another.